All right, let's continue on with the Audi. I got the Mechatronic unit in. This is what they look like. You see this arm right here? This thing is fragile. You break that sucker off, another 1,300 bucks or whatever, $1,500, $2,000. Some of them are for a replacement. Now, I've got to keep this thing clean. I just got it out for you guys to look at it, and then I'm going to put it back in the package. It comes in this nice Volkswagen box. This is an Audi, but same difference pretty much, other than this one has the immobilizer stuff in it, software for that. I believe that they're all the same, but they have to be, they're VIN specific. Okay, so when you have a specific VIN number, when you have a one that's for, they're all different for, as far as the software goes. So you have to put your software in it, and there's a way to do that if you have fancy dancy stuff. I forget what it's called. God, there's a name for the software thing you do. You can put it all in there yourself if you're a genius, but I'm not, so I'm not going there. So to remove it, this is 1, 2, 3, I think bolts, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to say 10 bolts. And they're all Torx, and they're torque to yield. So they need to be torqued all down. And then they need to be torqued. Then you have to do like another quarter turn or whatever. I don't know the specs on that yet. I would suggest looking it up yourself if you're going to do this job. So far, I don't know to get this part of it out. I can't remember. I've done this before, actually, and I don't remember if I took the fans out to clearance it. You could do fans or you could do service. Either one, it's about the same amount of time. Service mode might be easier. The starter has to come out. We'll take a look at some of the stuff. Drain the oil. You got to take out this plug, then you have to take out this thing. Goes up behind it. It has this beautiful washer. If you get your oil change kit, I think from Cascade German, they're like 73 bucks. You got to change the oil, so you got to do a full oil and filter kit on it. Should do that every 40,000 miles, and at the same time you want to grab one of these things here. This is a oil filler system for German cars. Absolutely worth every penny of the 80 bucks or $120 they are. Whatever they are, it's worth it. You can pour it back in by taking out the filter housing and pouring it in that thing. It'll take you like 2 hours to fill it up or something like that. It takes forever. It's just, after you do a couple of them, you'll be like, I'm going to buy one of these. So I finally bought one on Amazon. I don't remember. I found a deal on it. It was just like 80 bucks or something like that. And I think they're more than that normally. So yeah, I kind of got lucky. So now that my oil is all drained, I'm going to put my tube back in. So this tube goes in like that. Supposed to torque that thing to a specific amount. I just guess. It works fine. Some things you can get over that on. Some things you can't. Not very tight. Yeah, I just kind of go like this here. I like that right there. And put the drain plug back in. Then that's supposed to torque too, so I'll do it my way. So to get it all out of here, you got to have the battery out. Battery tray, there's only 3 bolts holding that thing in. 1, 2, 3. Take that whole guy out of the way. Starter's got to come out. It's in the way. And then got to unplug your Mechatronic. So if you guys were trying to do this, you just see that little white mark on it, this little handle. You just take it and twist it and then pull it out. Sometimes they don't come out so easy. Sometimes they don't go back in very easily. That's just how they go. Sometimes you just got to wiggle it around so that usually the white mark's at the top somewhere. Sometimes I've had to just twist them around really carefully. They get like, I don't know, they just get off track or whatever. I don't know what happens, but they get kind of hard to put on sometimes. That's happening. It's probably pretty normal. Okay. Starter's got to come out, so I got to get that bottom starter bolt out. And you got to get that from up here pretty much on this. On the Audi, it's got more stuff in the way. I could get the Volkswagen from below. I can get it with a wrench from below, but it would take a while. It's much easier to go directly underneath here. The long extension. And loosen that thing up. And then that will come out of the way. And then there's a few pan bolts. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pan bolts. And then this is the actual Mechatronic unit right here. This plug. So the pan will slide over that, and it has a rubber gasket. In my opinion, the rubber gasket can get reused. I do it. I've done it before. And it didn't leak. So it was no problem for me. If it's a problem for you, maybe get a new gasket. That's all up to you. But here's one out of the car. That's what it looks like if you're trying to do your own. It's not too bad. Then there's the wire plug. You got to take the bolts off of that too because it's in the way. Kind of pull that out of the way. And I think, like I said, I think almost be easier to get to pull the fans out. I'm not sure. I'm going to get these bolts out of the pan and we'll take a look and see. Find out later in the video if I needed to take out the fans. I can't remember. But I know that that big long piece, that big long thing that I said you can't pick it up by that thing, it says right on the package, don't pick it up with this thing. Okay, if you're having trouble getting that to line up, I got mine to line up no problem. You can take this side cover off, which I believe it has a rubber gasket on it too. To access that, you would have to take the fender well out. I might take the fender well out anyway because it's a little easier. So, you know, just pull that fender well out. It takes a couple minutes to do. Not really that hard. And then you can see right where that thing goes in the hole. Makes it a little easier. So, anyway, I did it last time. I didn't need to. But if you find yourself trying to force it in, no. Because those little ears will break off of that thing, and then it's no good. $1,500 mistake. So it just kind of, you just finesse it around, and all of a sudden it just goes clunk beautifully right up to the area, and that's how I did it in my mind. So my last one. Let's see if this one goes the same. Maybe it will, maybe not. And it's a Volkswagen. They have like a mind of their own, you know. Just if you know that. Sometimes they want to be fixed, sometimes they don't. And it just depends. You just got to take your time, work nice and slow, not be in a hurry. I thought I'd just put this in there. Really, there's only two things that ever really go wrong with these transmissions, and that's one, the clutches, and they're not hard to change. Two, the Mechatronic. The clutches are a little hard to change. You got to have the transmission out. Usually, what you do is, if you're thinking ahead, when your flywheel goes out, let's say you're over 200,000 miles on the 2.0, typically that's over 200,000 miles when the flywheel goes out. Your flywheel starts to rattle, you get that little noise from the dual mass flywheel, and you go, oh man, what a piece of crap, I hate this car, all this other stuff, you know, everything. Yeah, but honestly, it's really not that bad. You take the transmission out, you do the flywheel, and yeah, it's another $500. You spend the $500 and do the clutches because it's kind of a pain in the ass to get the trans out of this thing. You don't want to do it more than once. So that often, you know, I've done like 5 or 6 removals, and I really still hate it, and it's no easier the 5th time than it was the first. So it doesn't get any easier. It's that getting that transmission up over that subframe is a pain in the ass. I think it's the same on the Audi. I don't know. I think they have different suspension, so who knows if it's easier or harder, but one day I'll cross that bridge. Not today. So continue on. I'll go ahead and pull that out. I would decide to just throw that in here for you if you're looking at Audis or whatever. You know, there's good and bad to them. You know, some guys just say all bad, you know, but honestly, once you get the bulletproofing done, which I'm going to do on this car after it's done, there's really not much that the engines can last forever as long as you let the oil pump go. You don't let the oil pump go, it'll wipe everything out. The engines, the turbos, even as long as you're using the factory oil, you know, you stick with all the legit German stuff. I wouldn't put T6 in any of mine. I love T6. T6 is great oil, but I wouldn't use it in my German car at all. Not in these things. They're just too finicky. In my Duramax, I'll use T6 all day long, but in this thing, no, I wouldn't. It's just because there's the oil for the turbo. It's just, this thing's so engineered, so specific on some of those things that, you know, I just wouldn't deviate from it at all. But the only thing that's bad, and it's a Bosch engineering issue, is the CP4 pump. These things are just terribly bad design, but it's all Bosch. It's not VW, it's Bosch. So Bosch made the injection system. VW just bought into it. And the CP4 is in Duramaxes, they have them, in Fords they have them, in Dodges they have them, and they are junk. In my opinion, these things totally are trash. So put the CP3 in it, get rid of the hex shaft, and you've got yourself a car that'll last for, I don't think you could wear out the engine in this car if you use the original oil. I don't think you could. I don't know how many miles you could put on it, probably 1 million or something before you'd wear it out. Anyway, we'll move on. I'll talk to you later in the video. All right, so it's like a T25, and then these things here, you just pop the middle out, and it just pops out of there. Once you do that, it comes right out. Actually, the whole thing comes out if you want it to. Sometimes they stay in there. And then to put it back together, you just put it back together and push the pin in. It's pretty easy stuff here. Oh, that was nice of him. Somebody broke that off and left it in there. It comes off. That little thing comes off the bottom of your air filter. Sometimes. Yeah, somebody's been in here before. No big deal. That's normal. People take the front of these cars off all the time. It's called service position, service mode. It makes it a lot easier to work on. You can see right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Take the bumper cover off, a few wires, and then take those 4 bolts off, and basically the whole front of the car comes off. Look it up on my YouTube channel. I've got one called Service Mode, Service Position, VW Jetta. It's like almost the same as this car. It's going to be a little bit different, but it'll give you the idea of what to look for and how to get it apart. Take the bumper cover off, and basically these two corners, and then you can get access to those 4 bolts. Of course, make sure you get all your wiring disconnected ahead of time. This one again has fog lights and stuff, so you have to remove all that and make sure all the wires are all unplugged, and then that whole front end comes off. I put a jack underneath it because it's heavy, and then just kind of not that heavy, but you know, heavier than you might expect it will be, because it's remember, it's the intercooler, the radiator, you know, but you got to take the coolant out. You also have to take the Freon out. Isn't that nice of them? They made that idea. But anyway, it's no big thing. Putting the Freon back in is pretty easy too, so you end up doing that quite often as well on this car. So I've got 2 of the bolts out. See, the reason I took this out, it's a lot easier to get to this one. It's just easier, and then you're in here, you got a little more room when you're trying to get a little more light, a little more room to get that Mechatronic out of there. So let's proceed. Well, I'm going to take out this T, what it is, 30 or something. And then these 2 on the bottom, and of course the oil pan is going to start leaking. So we're going to have something underneath there. And you got to love these. That's one of the reasons to have that thing off. Is I had to get in there with a hammer and really punch it in there good, because it wanted to spin. So luckily I have another transmission with lots of parts on it, so I'll just grab some bolts off of it. That's the plan. I know somebody commented to get new bolts. Good idea. But I've got 2 transmissions, so I think I can salvage all 10 of them from 2 transmissions. I'll probably get 5 from one, 5 from the other if I have to. And that way I don't have to buy them. Not a big deal to buy them. They're cheap. $2 a piece for the 1 bolts. But these are I don't know. You might have to order them. Who knows? I don't want to do that. All right, voila, a little bit of splashing oil, and we're looking good. I got to get this unplugged. I got to reach in there, pull that little lever over, and then this wire needs to be disconnected. Let me do that. Done this before, like I said, and then it weaves up through here. Yeah, has to get, sorry about the light, guys. It has to get unweaved and then reweaved in the new one. Once that's done, one of the things I did is here, I got these vice grips to hold stuff out of the way, because you'll notice there's a lot of stuff in your way when you're trying to pull that thing out. It goes way up to here. You know, this thing comes out too, right? It's on there, look. The new one. So it's all that big old piece comes out. I've already pulled it out and then stuck it back in because it's too much stuff in the way. Again, I might still need to pull the fans, I don't know. Hopefully I can get it out without it. Well, I'd say it's a little easier on the Volkswagen. I think I could just had a little more room. It looks like it's going to hit this tube here too. So I'm just going to go to service. It's much easier. I'm just going to take the fan plug off. Some of these wires here, it's got extra stuff here on the Audi. It's got to get all these fog lights off. And take the front bumper off, bumper cover off, and then these 4 bolts, and just back the whole thing away. I'll leave the radiator hoses on. I think I can do it with just doing like a partial service. Just bring it back far enough, and then figure out, maybe I'll support it with something and I can still raise it up in the air. I don't know. I'll figure out something, but that's what I'm going to do. I'll bring it back in when you see what I'm doing with that, and show you what I did. All right, well, let's take a look here. I've got this thing in a partial service, so it kind of hangs right here. It's kind of hanging. It's kind of hung up on some stuff over here, which is fine. And that's what I wanted. What I did is I took out those 4 bolts that I showed you earlier. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. Then took the hood cable loose, which is underneath this little plastic cover right here. Plastic cover kind of goes right here, and the hood cable comes out of here. You just flip up this thing. There's a little ball and socket. Looks like this. Just goes in that little ball, goes in the hole. Disconnected the airbag sensor here, and disconnected whatever this one is, wire here, and then left everything else there. And if you can see, it kind of hangs back and rests. I don't know what it's resting on. Something. Yeah, it's resting like right here on this little ledge, because I've got 3 of the bolts out over there. One of them's loose, so that gives you the room. Looks like it should give me the room, and I can raise it up in the air. And you guys working on the ground, it'll be a little harder, but I'm just trying to show you. And on the Jetta, it would be a little bit different, but almost the same. And of course, again, I had to take off. There's 2 bolts here, one here and one over there. They look like this here. So those are on top here. So that's how that works. So now I'm going to see if I can get this thing raised up in the air. I don't have it on a jack. It's just hanging on this little guy right here. Shouldn't fall. I think it'll be all right. For me, we'll find out later in the video if it does. If it does, it'll just kind of just hang there, tighten up that one a little bit more over there maybe, and play with it. Maybe put a tie strap here, hook it on something if you're worried about it. I don't think I'm going to worry about it. I just pulled it far enough away and it doesn't feel like it wants to fall off. But, if you pull it too far away, and it does, it might damage the AC lines. Just keep that in mind, which would be kind of expensive and a pain in the butt to change. So let's see if I can get this thing out. I'll bring you back in a minute. Well, I got to tell you, that's the ticket right there. I just had it nice and far out. don't have to stress anything out, trying to worry about that thing breaking. That thing just came right out, just straight out, right, easy, done. So now we just got to get the new one back in, and then get everything, all the bolts back in there, get it all buttoned up, put the plug back. Got to plug this thing back in, you know, just weave it in and out those two little things I showed you. That's the old one. Valve body's probably still good on it, probably just needs a Mechatronic portion. You know, some guys can actually take this portion out and just cut it open, and then there's usually a wire broken in there. Maybe one of these days I'll take it apart. It'd be kind of fun, look in there and see if there was a way to fix it. I just wasn't gonna bother, just the time, you know, and the what if, and then I'd have to do it. Once I get done, I find out that I can't fix it, then I have to order one anyway. It takes a month to get one, so for this car at least. Okay, let's put the new one in. Just for fun, I was trying to get it in there. It's really kind of heavy, and trying to get it to line up in here. I'm just going to take the side cover off. It's really not hard to do, so let's take that off and take a look in there and see if there's anything in there to fix, or just to make it so I can see where I'm putting it. So that's what's behind here. That little stem goes down into here, and I believe this is a little reader. You know, there's a little reader on that thing that reads the speed of that, probably. That's my guess. Let's look at it. Yeah, something's in there. Yeah, that little thing reads. That's probably just like a speed sensor or something like that. That's my guess. And that little rod there is the, I think it shows the engine speed or something like that. So anyway, just drop that thing in. Shouldn't be a problem now. Should go right in now easily. Yeah, if you're wondering what it's running into, it might be, you know, this little rubber thing here. You know, something like that is giving you a little problem trying to put it in. If you, sometimes they go right in. Mine went right in last time, but it didn't this time, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it this way. Much easier. Dropped right in easily. Could see what was going on, because it kind of wants to hit this wheel, and there's that other stuff there, and then there's that little bump sticking out, so it's a little tough. I've got it under, and like I said, sometimes it just drops right in. This one didn't, so I wasn't gonna fuss with it since it's such an expensive part. It's just much easier to just pull that cover off. It takes about a minute or two. Just for you to know. Talk to you guys later. Probably at this point I'm going to go ahead and be taking a break here in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and torque everything down. You know, I'll let you look up your own torque specs if you're going to do that, because I might get them wrong, who knows, and then it's on a video somewhere and somebody's like, oh my god, you told me the wrong thing. Look it up yourself. Get the torque specs for the Mechatronic. I'm sure it's a torque to yield. You should replace all the bolts. I'm going to reuse mine. I think I'm okay with that. And mine actually came out good. Sometimes what happens is they strip out, and then I would want to replace them. I have another transmission I could just grab them out of if I need them. But I'm going to go ahead and finish that up here. I'll bring it back in when it's running. Basically just return, you know, put it back together the way I took it apart, and it'll probably be no issue. Hopefully it'll just start up and run. You have to start it up, run it, get it to temperature. You need a VAGCOM or a Rostec to actually check the trans temperature, and then do something called adaption. So after this is all done, I have to do an adaption to it. So you have to go in your setting, you know, basic settings, and set your transmission adaptions, and then it should be good to go. After that, it should be plug and play. When you get the one from ECS Tuning, it is a factory part. So and it's way cheaper than the dealer. So it's like it's the same thing. You're going to them, they get a discount. They just make a little tiny bit of money on them. In fact, there's almost hardly any markup. That's why they didn't give me a discount on the part, because they don't have much markup on it. And then, but I get it cheaper than going to the dealer myself. So anyway, all right, I'll talk to you guys later in the video. We'll check it out as it gets done. All right, she's running. The transmission works perfect. Seems to. Haven't driven it yet, but I'm sure it'll drive just fine. But I do hear a noise. Anybody know what this one is? Listen. I know what it is. I'm just seeing if you guys do. See, these are all things that I was not able to test on the car before I bought it. And it needs a dual mass flywheel. So that's another, you know, $400 in a day's work. So, yeah. Actually, it might not be as hard on this. The frame is not as far out on the Audi as it is on the Volkswagen. Just look. Yeah, it looks like there's a little more room in here to get the tranny out. So, transmission has to come out for the dual mass flywheel. Also, this is a CBEA engine, and I need to inspect the I don't know, it doesn't look, I bet you anything, the time belt's never been done. 160,000 miles, they probably never did it. You know, that's my guess. But anyway, we got a little bit, it's just starting to go, so I don't know, I could put the front end of the car on, I'll probably put it back on, put this back together, and just drive it shortly, and then we'll take a drive in it and see what other stuff, you know, is it going to be a money pit or not, you know, there's no way to know. So anyway, we'll continue on. We hear a dual mass flywheel noise, and let's see what other issues it has, and then we'll bring it back in. But the next thing that needs to be done now is it needs to get I need to do the basic settings on the transmission, because now that, since I've changed the Mechatronic unit, the transmission needs to learn the clutches all over again, because the computer's wiped clean. It needs to learn everything, so I have to do all the basic settings on it. I'll show you that in a second, and we'll continue on with this build. Alright, so we're taking a little drive in the Audi. Going through transmission adaptation right now. I already did all the basic settings. You go in the computer, and I notice I have a tire light. There's one that's low, probably. Who knows? Maybe it drove over a nail or something. I don't think it's that low. But I'll get on that. I noticed it said right rear tire, so it's the tire pressure monitoring system is working. I noticed we saw a blinking one before, and it started working. So anyway, it seems to drive okay. 160 on the clock, as we said before. Transmission still needs to learn the gears and all that stuff. So it's going to be kind of clunky for a little bit. And I noticed it's got a little bit of the suspension's kind of noisy, kind of normal for these cars. Seems to drive okay. I don't see anything else other than, you know, it does have the CB engine, so we're gonna have to do the update on the hex shaft. So get that fixed. Running good, runs strong, nothing really wrong with it other than that. And the flywheel's bad. As soon as you put it in gear, that noise goes away. So if you have a little noise like that, you put it in gear and it goes away, that's usually the flywheel. It's just barely starting to go. It's something I could probably wait like a month or two if I really wanted to. So it's running. It's not a total money pit, but it's definitely was, you know, it's not some amazing, you don't buy an Audi and figure it's going to be some amazing deal because it needs parts and stuff, because usually the parts are so expensive that you're going to end up getting it on the other end. So, but yeah, it's not bad. I know the transmission's learning right now. It's starting to downshift a little early, stuff like that. But the tranny feels great. The clutches feel good. The thing that you look for when you buy one of these or you get in it and drive it is when you put it in gear. Can't put it in reverse. Put it in first or in drive. Okay. I don't hear anything, right? If it goes click, when you put in gear, normally that means that's the first sign that the clutches are starting to go. And it's not a big deal. I mean, it's going to be done. You can do it yourself. Remove the transmission, put a new flywheel at the same time. Yeah, $900 in parts for the two things. So parts are what get you on these. It's not, and labor sucks too. It's not easy to work on, but I'd say it's not a bad car. It runs good. I don't want to drive it too much before I change that hex shaft. I have no idea what's in there, so I don't want to push it. It's too scary. Expensive if I lose an engine. So anyway, the transmission is fixed, and we'll go ahead and I'm going to wash it. It looks really clean through the window. I'm going to wash it still. I'm going to order some parts for the other stuff, and then we will bring you back in on the next video for this. So that's going to be it for the transmission. I'd say it's a win as far as that goes. Definitely running good. Car is solid, just other than the flywheel and the other things that need maintenance. We should be good to go. And the tire that's low. Who knows, maybe I drove over a nail. It's probably just a little bit low. Not a big deal. Thanks to you guys on YouTube. We got it fixed. What's his name? Miles helped me out with a lot of stuff. Miles Walker. Nice one with the fuses. Alright, talk to you next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.